Hello, and welcome to our Conscious Parenting webinar number 2. My name is Becca. I'm your host for Global Educators. As parents and educators, we want the best for our children. We strive to provide them with a nurturing environment that fosters their growth and development. However, in today's fast-paced world, sometimes it's easy to forget that we need to take care of our students and our kids because of the hustle and bustle of daily life. Sometimes we lose sight of what's important. Conscious parenting is about being present, aware, and intentional with our parenting and with our teaching styles. It's about creating a deeper connection with our children and cultivating a compassionate, empathetic, and loving relationship with our children. In this webinar, we'll have Marwa to furnish a larger context and an extended version from episode 5. If you have not watched it, you can go back to our YouTube channel and watch her previous episode on conscious parenting. Thank you, Marwa, for coming on our show for the second time. I'm so happy to see you again. And how are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me again.
Welcome, welcome. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been doing great.
Are you excited for
Actually,
today's talk?
yeah, because somewhere I am, starting to feel that connection with conscious parenting since I have been implementing that in my life. So I'm really excited to talk about it.
That's nice. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing with our audience this
Welcome.
wonderful journey. And when we're ready, whenever you are.
Uh, so So let's get started with defining conscious parenting. So, as I've already mentioned, conscious parenting is a mindful approach where parents shift from controlling to connecting with their children. So, most of the time, parents focus on controlling their children, that is, guiding them towards what is right and what is wrong. And what most parents fail to understand is that each child have their own unique developmental needs according to their age group, but most parents doesn't understand these unique needs, developmental needs of their children, and hence they fail to connect with their children. So a conscious parenting is a type of a parenting approach where parents try to understand the developmental needs of their children and hence connect with them on an emotional level. It also focuses on self awareness, emotional intelligence, and healing personal triggers. So, parenting is something, again, which an important fact which most of us don't understand is that parenting requires a lot of inner work. Okay, so if you want to become a better parent, there is so much work that needs to be done within ourselves. And again, important point which most of us don't understand is the influence of early childhood experiences on our own parenting style. Because I have heard my friends say that when they become a parent, they will be very cool parent, unlike their parents who are very strict. But what they don't understand is that our childhood experiences or our own parenting experiences will have an influence on the way they raise their children. Okay, so a conscious parent is someone who try. So if you are someone who have undergone any kind of trauma or any kind of negative experiences when you were a child, then it will have an impact, a kind of negative influence, I would say, on your parenting style or how you raise your child. So a conscious parent is someone who tries to understand these patterns and makes a conscious effort in healing these personal triggers or making an attempt to resolve these conflicts. Now, let's do a quick activity. It is a self-reflection exercise. So, I want all of you to close your eyes for a moment and reflect on a recent moment where you reacted instead of responded. Okay, for example, if your child was calling out your name, trying to get your help. So, you, instead of asking them politely, like, what is it, do you need me? Instead of responding in that way, if we reacted, if we yelled at them, think of that moment. I know, there could be many such events. So think of one such moment and write down how you felt at that particular moment and what actually triggered this reaction. Okay. So when you do this exercise, you'll come to understand that there were actually so many factors that were actually triggering this reaction. So most of the time, it's actually an instant reaction, right? The yelling or the shouting is an instant reaction, and we often conclude that it is because of the child's behavior. The child kept, calling my name, or the child kept irritating me. That was the reason I yelled. But when we do such self-reflection exercises, parents will get to know that there are actually so many other triggers. It could be biological factors like hunger, tiredness, etc., or it could be psychological factors as well. For some people, it could be, it is the anger that got projected onto their child. For example, they might be angry at their boss or maybe their husband, and they can't express that anger towards them. So when the child, shows some kind of behavior, they get angry at them. So that is actually another type of trigger. So, when we do such exercises, or I would say conscious parenting is all about understanding these triggers and making a conscious effort to control these triggers as much as possible. Now, let's try to break the cycle of unconscious parenting. So, in our journey towards becoming a conscious parent, we need to understand or we need to reflect upon our own inner journey as a parent. So, for that, we'll have to understand the role of ego in parenting. So, most parents have an ego driven need for their child to reflect their own ideals or fulfill their unmet dreams. Now, this will create a lot of problems between the parent and the child. Suppose if a parent has not been that great in academics. Okay, so once they become a parent, they will, force and they will compel their child to excel well in academics. Now, this will create an unnecessary pressure for the child, and also it will negatively impact the relationship between the parent and the child. So this is something that I have, witnessed as well. Like I have already mentioned, I used to work in a college as an assistant professor. So I have met few parents who had so much of unrealistic expectation towards their children. Okay, so they fail to understand, the true potential of their children, and they tend to project their own unmet dreams towards their children. So as a consequence, what will happen is, again, the child will not able to meet these standards. The parent will always be disappointed with their child, and there will be frequent conflicts between the child and the parent. So this is actually, something that we need to get rid of our own expectations and try to perceive our children as they are, okay, as separate individual with their own unique talents and abilities. So another perspective shift that we need to make is from controlling to connecting with our children. So in psychology, we have different parenting styles, that is authoritarian, authoritative, permissive, and uninvolved. Now, an authoritarian parenting style is an approach where parents exhibit high level of control towards their children with low to minimum affection towards them. So a conscious parent is someone who avoid being an authoritarian parent, and they always focus on collaborating and understanding their children's needs. And another point, or another thing that we need to consider is that any misbehavior from our children is actually a call for connection rather than defiance. So always remember that any behavior that your child shows is actually their way of communicating their needs. See, if we don't think it in that way, if the child is being defiant, we might, or if the child isn't obeying to us, we might interpret it as the child being very arrogant or as the child being disobedient. But sometimes, or the child is actually seeking your attention. The child is actually seeking that quality time with you. But they don't know how to express it directly, or they don't know how to express it verbally, particularly with young children. So what they do is they try to be defined, or they will start crying for silly reasons. So always understand that any behavior that your child shows is actually a way of communicating their needs. And next one is emotional triggers. So emotional triggers usually stem from unresolved childhood issues, past experiences or patterns. Like, for example, if a person has been spoken very harshly or punished severely when they were a child. So when a child does something that triggers these emotions, the parent will most probably yell, or they will resort to some kind of physical punishment. Okay, now this is something again which most of us are not aware of. So, a conscious parent is someone who tries to reflect upon their own childhood experiences. They will examine whether any such, negative experiences have occurred in their own childhood, and they will make an attempt to resolve these issues. Because, like we have said, the childhood experiences and the current parenting experience are both related. Another one is practicing emotional regulation and engaging in mindful responses. So, another important responsibility of every parent, regardless the age of their children, is to teach them emotional regulation. And as you know, there are a number of resources available in the market that claim to teach emotional regulation in the form of worksheets, apps, play kids, games, and etc. etc. But me, as a psychologist and a parenting coach, I would say that the only way or only person actually who could teach their kids emotional regulation is their parent. No other app or no other games can actually teach emotional regulation, and it is possible only through co-regulation. Okay, that is if the child is having a tough time, is if the child is going through a difficult emotion, if the parent remains calm during that moment, the child will model that behavior. Okay, so the child will eventually learn on how to regulate their emotions because he or she have seen his parent behave in the same way. Okay, and yeah, another way is can we pause for a second? So, another aspect of being a conscious parent is to reframe negative behaviors. See, when a child is showing some kind of misbehavior or any challenging behavior, most parents resort to various forms of punishment like timeout or taking away their toys for a particular period of time. But a conscious parent is someone who doesn't resort to such physical punishments, rather, they engage in collaborative problem solving. For example, if a child is throwing a tantrum, and instead of asking the child to go to a room and be there alone for some point of time, a conscious parent will stay together with the child and help the child to co-regulate. Okay, so the parent will acknowledge his feelings by saying that I understand that you are upset. Now let's take a deep breath together. Okay, it's not that when a child is showing any kind of misbehavior, the parent lets the child deal with it alone. The parent will be a conscious parent is someone who will be present with the child one until the child settles down or one until the child calms down. Okay, so what I do with my daughter, she is a toddler, so I ask her to read books. Okay, so that is like instead of moving her away or instead of asking her to stop crying, this is what I do. I try to acknowledge her feelings and then I tell her that now come, let's read a book together. Okay. Now, how do we create a conscious parenting home? See, as parents, I think we give, we try our level best to create the best kids' room, right? We buy the most expensive furniture, the decor, the toys, and everything. We try to make our kids' room a very attractive one. So that is a kids' room is actually a physical space, right? But how many of you provide a safe emotional space for our children? Have you ever thought that are you providing a space where your child can freely come to you and talk to you about their problems and concerns and feelings without being judged? Because this is something that we all need to consider, right? We try our best to create an attractive physical space for them, but we might not be providing that safe emotional space for our children where they can talk to us openly. Now this is something that we all need to work upon, and in order to create a safe emotional space, we need to shift from fixing to accepting children as they are. Okay, again, another concept which not most parents think is that children are something that need to be mended or that needs to be fixed. Okay, this is again an incorrect way of perceiving children. We all need to understand that our children have their own unique needs and talents and personality. So we need to try to accept children as they are instead of trying to meet or instead of trying to mold them to meet our personal standards. Okay, and again, yeah, I had this parent who was very much concerned about her daughter's introvert behavior. Okay, so the parent always kept telling me that she's a very introvert person, but I want you to change her. I want her to be very sociable and extrovert. So, though daughter, like though she was very good in academics, though she had so many other extra skills, the parent failed to notice all those skills, and she always kept complaining about her daughter. So eventually, what happened is the girl was always underconfident, she lacked confidence, and she always seemed anxious. So as a psychologist, I could notice or I could understand that the lack of confidence in the daughter, in the child, is because parent, has got to deal with her mother's parenting style. So this is something that we all parents need to know. Instead of trying to meet our personal standards, understand that each child have their unique personality. Now, next is about setting boundaries with love. Again, most people have this misconception with conscious parenting that conscious parenting equal to permissive parenting. Now, permissive parenting is a type of parenting approach where parents have low to no control over their children, but they do have high level of wow, but actually no rules. Okay, so that is a type of parenting in permissive. But being a conscious parent, the purpose is not to be permissive. It's not about giving in. It's not about letting the child do whatever they want. We are clearly setting the boundaries firmly, but with love. Okay, so that part again is very important. I would feel a very beautiful concept and an important thing that we all need to understand. So, for example, if your child is having screen time and you ask the child to switch off or to stop watching screens, and most probably the child would deny and the child will demand for more screen time. So there you will have to create that, you'll have to set that clear boundary with your child. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you need to be very harsh or you need to be very strict there. You can impose the rule by saying that I can understand that you want to have more screen time, but now it's time for dinner now, and let's set a timer for 30 minutes of screen time after dinner. So once you set this rule, make sure that you stick to it. Again, the child might not obey in the first, when we tell them at first, but that doesn't mean that we'll have to give it. Okay, we whatever rules we are setting, we should be firm on that. Try to be consistent with those rules because only the child and then the child will learn that okay, mama is setting a rule. I'll have to obey it. There is no other way out, so I'll have to stick to it. And so that the child will, eventually they will learn how to stick to rules. But if we ourselves setting a rule for one day and the very next day, if we are breaking it or if we are giving in, then it's not going to work. Okay, so this is all I wanted to discuss today, and I want to take this opportunity to make an announcement that I am launching a 21-day conscious parenting program this month. I have already done last month, and we are just 1 week left to complete that, and I'm launching the second batch this month. So the registrations are open till April 7th. And in case if anybody is interested, you can connect with me personally, either on Instagram or WhatsApp.
Thank you, Marwa, for a wonderful, wonderful speech. And thank you for all of the audience who also joined in. Thank you for let us know how it felt, how you thought, what was your biggest takeaways, and let us know in the message, also in our comments, how you found this session informative. There was wonderful, wonderful takeaway, but I do want to reflect quickly on like your upcoming program. Could you tell us a little bit more about this 21-day program and how can people benefit? And just give a little bit details.
So like I have mentioned, it's a 21-day program. So it is basically divided into 3 weeks, where each week will be focusing on different aspects of conscious parenting. So in the first week, for example, we focus on trying to understand our triggers, and it is a lot about building emotional awareness. So similarly, we have different themes for second week and third week. So in a week, there will be 3 activities and one live sessions. So the activities are designed in such a way that it's practical and it will help the parents to understand their emotional triggers, and it will also help them build emotional awareness. And at the end, like the live session is about discussing the concerns, or in case if they have any faced any challenges, we'll be having a discussion on that in the live session.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And there were so many wonderful takeaways from this from your speech. And this biggest one that was a great reminder for me is to instead of punishment, use collaborative problem solving. I thought that was wonderful. Also, like shift from fixing to accepting. So that was also like a wonderful line that kind of stood out to me. And thank you again for everyone, all of the audience for tuning in. joining us on this journey of exploring conscious parenting. Again, thank you for our wonderful speaker. Make sure to check her website out and her program out. And let's all dive into becoming better parents and educators. Remember, conscious parenting is a journey, not a destination. This is a great tool to be present, aware, and intentional with our parenting and how we treat our students and our children. Please apply these tips and let us know how they work in your parenting day-to-day life. Thank you all. See you next session.